What's happening, people? Today I'm going to show you how to make a 140 breaks tune like this.
I'm gonna lick it with this one.
For this tune, I think the BPM I'm going to use is 145. So just click on the BPM there and put 145 and press enter. So we've got 145 BPM, and I'm just starting off with this Amen Brother sample. So if you're unfamiliar with what the Amen break is, well, there's tons of videos on YouTube about it, but basically it is a drum solo from a song from the 1960s called Amen Brother. And let me just quickly turn this down a bit because I feel like it's going to distort. So if I just turn it down and turn off warping, this is what Amen Brother sounds like. So you probably recognize those drums from various different jungle and drum and bass tunes. They are pretty much the most famous drums in the genre. So as you can hear, there's this trumpet bit at the beginning, which I'm not going to be using. So I'll just start from this kick here. So what I'm going to do is click on that and press Command and E, and that chops it into two parts, and then click the left part and click delete. So next I'm going to line the kick up with the first beat in the bar, and what I want to do is get this lined up with the project tempo. So I'm going to turn on the metronome and have a listen to how it's sounding compared to the metronome. So it's going slower than the metronome. So what I'm going to do is turn the warp back on, choose the complex algorithm, and just try and find the last warp marker and put that to what seems about appropriate. So I think this is a 3-bar loop. And the reason is because we sort of got rid of that trumpet bit from the beginning. So let's see if this is lining up now. Seems about right. Now is a good time to save this. So I'm going to hit save, Command and S. All right, so I'm going to call this Slow Jam. There are a couple of different ways you can chop up breaks. Well, there's probably many ways, but today I'm going to show you two ways. So one of them is the audio way and the other one is the MIDI way. Okay, so we've got our Amen break clip, and so far it's just got two of these yellow warp markers. It's completely up to you how much you want to warp this. You could just leave it as it is and leave all of this sort of swing and groove in it. But if you are going to be layering other kicks and snares with it, it might be a good idea to put the kicks and snares on the grid and just have the shuffles as, freeform timing or whatever. So I'm going to do that. So I have already added warp markers for the beginning and the end of the loop. Now I'm just going to go to each kick and snare and put it on the grid more or less. So here's the first snare. And if I just move that to there, this is also a kick. That could be moved to there. One thing you can do is just turn on looping and listen to it. And if it loops round properly, then that's a good sign. All right, so as I was saying, various different types of ways to chop up breaks, but this way is the audio way. So what you can do is each time you've got a new hit, you just sort of click on the line and press Command and E. So Command and E, Command and E. And obviously this is a 3-bar loop which contains loads of different kicks and snares, which is great because it means you can either choose to use all of them, choose to not use all of them, and just choose. You can just choose the ones that sound the best, right? So if there's like 6 different kicks in the break, go through them, choose your favorite. So we're going to go through and call these kick 1, kick 2, snare 1. That one's a very important slice because it's a hi-hat, and with all the shuffles, they go in 16ths, like this. But this hi-hat is an 1/8. It's a very important slice of the Amen break, because when you're putting together patterns, and if you want to make part of it just go into halftime, you can make it go kick, hat, snare instead of kick, shuffle, snare, if you know what I mean. So it takes away that 16thness of it and allows you to make something a little bit slower. What I'm going to do now is just color code these. It's going to make it a little bit easier. We're going to choose a color scheme. Kicks are going to be red. All right. Now this can be any colors you want, but I'm going to go for kicks are red, snares are yellow, shuffles are green. Double kick is going to be a different shade of red, right? So it's like the red, but it's a different red. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just leave this there, and then over here on the right, I'm going to just copy parts and paste parts, all right? So kick, kick, snare, copy them, paste them here. One thing I really like to do is include the hi-hat instead of the second kick. Now, obviously, this doesn't have to be on every one, but if I just paste that hi-hat here and just sort of show you what I mean. So we've got this little kick, hat, snare pattern, which I'm just going to duplicate. Kick, hat, snare, shuffle, shuffle. You know what I mean? So just copy those two shuffles and put them there, and then you've just got the first loop. Have a listen to this. So that's just a quick 1 bar, and then you can go kick, kick, snare, shuffle, shuffle, crash. You know, and now you can do all sorts of stuff, including reversing bits, including slowing bits down, speeding bits up. So let's just try the crash 2 semitones down in pitch instead. So it goes like this. There's also time stretching. So you can just grab one of these slices, and if you hold down shift and drag it sideways, it actually just drags it out with time stretching, which is amazing. So have a listen to this. So with the time stretching, you can now put that onto, instead of complex, you can try different stuff like textures. So with the classic Akai samplers from the 90s and stuff like that, when they time stretched, they would actually split it up into a million little pieces, and you'd hear it like. So Ableton can actually do that. If you just put it onto texture, and then there's grain size, you know, and you can adjust the grain size to make it sound more or less old school. Something like that. About 36 was basically sounding to me like, you know, in a jungle tune when you hear it's been time stretched by old school technology. Right, so this snare here, I'm going to put that up by a couple of semitones. And then this one, I'm just going to put it up by 1 semitone. So it goes, you've got these sort of falling snares effect. You can even shorten down the snare like that and then duplicate it. So it makes this snare roll, and then each one falls in pitch. So we're going to start off with like +8, next one +7, +6, next one +5, +4, then 3, 2, it's already on 2, and then 1, and it sounds like this. So next I'm going to get a couple of different audio effects in Ableton and just make this break a bit fatter. So starting with the compressor, glue compressor. And I'm just going to bring down the threshold until I am reducing the gain by roughly 2 to 3 dB. And in fact, I'm going to bring it up by 3. All right, next. I am going to see what this sounds like with a bit of saturation on it. Bring it down and then bring it back up on the drive. that's how you can slice a break in audio, but there is another way you can do it using MIDI. So I've got another break here, and just like last time, I'm going to make sure it all lines up with the grid, at least the kicks and snares. Right, so the way how you can slice this into MIDI is literally, once you've sorted out all the warping and everything, you just go to right click, go to slice to a new MIDI track. The first thing I like to do once I've sliced to a new MIDI track is I go through each slice and just make sure at the end of the slice that it's not bringing in the next kick or snare or whichever hit. So far so good. It looks like they're sliced well. Look, it's perfectly on there before the next hit comes in, so it's done a really good job of slicing this well. Actually, that one isn't. So here's an example of what I'm on about. Look, at the end of the slice, it goes into the next drum hit, and you don't want that. You want it to end just before it like that. So, and this one, I don't know what that little thing is there, but definitely not including it. So I'll just drag that to before that, and let's play our new MIDI clip. It's crunchy, but it suits the track, so let's go for it. So I'm going to put it here, and then I'm just going to quickly rename these slices. By the way, each time I want to rename a slice, I click on it and Command and R, and that allows you to type in a new name for it. So this is Shuffle 2. And Slice 5, rename it Shuffle 3. Now we've got our slices named, it makes it a lot easier. So as you can see, in the top layer, we've got kick, kick, snare, shuffle, shuffle, snare, etc. So if I go into this, what I essentially want to do is match the same pattern. Another tip is make sure this little headphones symbol is turned on. And then what you can do is just grab each slice and move it up and down using the arrow keys like this. And each time you move it up or down, you'll hear where it is and what it's on. So let's have a listen to that with the Amen layered together. With that other break, I am actually going to do a bit of EQing on it and maybe scoop out some of the mud. So let me just grab an EQ8, put that there. Let's listen to those two together. I'm also going to apply some compression. In fact, I'm just going to, sometimes what I like to do is just literally drag effects from one channel to the other and then hold down Alt. I'm going to make the bass line out of an 808. So the way how I like to do this is go to Instruments and Simpler and just drag in a Simpler. Then get your favorite 808 sample. So you can just sort of search 808. I like to use this one called Super Dope. Put that in there. And then, here's a little trick for you. If you go to Audio Effects and Utilities, there's this guitar tuner here, which is absolutely perfect. What I like to do is go to Options, Computer MIDI Keyboard, and with the A key of your keyboard, that's a C, right? So what you want to do is tune this 808 sample so that C is C. So what I'm going to do is transpose it up. That's G, A, B, C. C. What is it? There's C, and obviously it needs some sense as well. So just keep pressing it and keep adjusting the transpose and detune until when you press a C, it's a perfect C. Now the reason why I do that is because it basically just makes it so much easier. If you're dragging in MIDI clips from other places, you can just put it onto this and it'll play them in the perfect notes. And if you are somebody who actually knows how to use like a proper keyboard, like a MIDI keyboard, and you know where C is and you know where F is and all the different notes, that's going to make it a lot easier. Now, I'm not really one of those kind of people. I'm just like pressing buttons and seeing what happens, to be honest. So, but it's still good to have it perfectly in tune. So when you've got all your other elements playing, and if something's playing an F note, then obviously you want your sub bass to be playing a perfect F. And speaking of an F, let's have a listen to how an F is sounding with this. As you may have seen in one of my previous videos, now whenever I start working on the sub bass, what I do is I put a spectrum analyzer on the master, and then I just solo the sub bass and play a note and see if it's in a appropriate area. So that low F is 44 hertz, which is perfect. It's not too low and it's not too high. Now another thing you can do is with the 808 sample, what you've got is essentially, it was made out of a kick, right? From the 808 classic Roland drum machine. So this, at the beginning, the first little bit is sort of the knock of the kick. So what you can do is, you can keep that in there if you want, but needless to say, we're going to be adding our own kicks, and we only really want this to be the sub bass. So you can just get rid of those first couple cycles of the wave. Make sure you bring it in on the line though. So like, for example, where it crosses over that line, make sure that's bang on. And then if you do hear any click, you can also just bring up this attack somewhere between like 20 and 40 milliseconds. So when the 808 hits, then there's going to be a tiny little gap just before it for the kick, but it's going to be so little that you won't even hear the gap. It'll just be kick and then 808. So let me just put a little bit of saturation on this as well. Bring down the output, bring up the drive, and let's hear that note. And don't forget, there are different waveform shapes on this saturator. You've got the soft sine, you've got the medium curve. Medium curve is pretty heavy, and then you've got hard curve. If you want to go really like late 90s sort of Congo natty type savage bass lines, you can go for the hard curve. But me personally, I usually keep it on either analog clip, soft sine, or sometimes I use sinoid fold. That makes it sound kind of strange. But now it's time for us to actually write our bass line. It's important to listen to your drums and just get little cues for your bass line from the drums. So like I did with the kick, when it goes dub dub, you go dum dum with the bass line, you know? Now another tip is, you hear how it's clicking in between each one? All you need to do to stop that is make the notes ever so slightly shorter so they don't run into each other. Now bring these notes, hold down command and just drag it to the left just a little bit. Now let's play it. I've just added this pad, and if you want to know how to make this pad, I actually explained it in my How to Make a Liquid Drum and Bass Track video from a couple of weeks ago. But basically, it's the wavetable synth, and it's automated to move this waveform up and down. These filters are automated to move back and forward, and it just creates a bit of movement within the synthesizer to make this pad sound. And also this unison needs to be put on 3 or more voices. I've put it on 5. All right, so this is how the pad is sounding. Sounding kind of dark and moody. And because of that pattern that I did with the pad, I decided to slightly change the notes of the bass line to match these chords. So now the bass line is sounding like this. And all together. I've added this vocal sample and I found it on YouTube. It's just from a news report and it's this guy saying this.
I'ma lick him with this one. I'ma lick him with this one.
All right, so that's going to be just before the drop. So this is how it's all sounding together.
I'ma lick him with this one.
So the next thing I want to do is create a bit of an intro. So I'm going to take this pad and I'm just going to paste that at the beginning of the tune. So just put that there, and I'm going to need some kind of little hi-hat thing to go along with it. So I was thinking about using the Think Shaker. And I'm just going to use the sort of first bit of it and just duplicate that like that. Let's take a listen to how that's sounding. Sounding pretty good. So I want to get rid of some of the sort of mid-range sound from it and just have the high end. So I'm just going to put this high pass filter about there. And also I want to add some reverb. And I'm going to choose a plate reverb, shorter decay, less wet dry, and it sounds like this. Next, I want to create a melody, and I was thinking about using Massive. So I'm just going to drag in an instance of Massive. So I might try deleting some of these notes. All right, so I was thinking maybe I'll bring in the think break. Maybe I'll just use the bits that don't have the vocal sample. So, for example, the first half of that bit, and then the second half of this one. Not every tune has to have him with his little vocal sample, you know. Some people would disagree and say he has to be in there on every tune. Let me know in the comments if you think that you have to use the vocal part of the think break every time. And that's how you get a little loop of the think break without any vocal sample.
I'ma lick him with this one. the Glock in his chest. I'ma lick it with this one. And I empty the Glock in his chest.
And that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the video. If you have learnt something, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.